And good morning, good evening, uh, whatever time it may be in your neck of the woods. This is Woody Collins, and we're here to talk about the cholera outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo that was reported almost 2 days ago. And we are going to talk about where it's located, um, some of the work that we've been doing and how it relates to it, and also the treatment and prevention. Number one, it's in central Congo. It's an area that I've been to, the province of Sankuru. Sankuru is north of where we're kind of headquartered out of the Kasai province. Uh, but it is, as a matter of fact, the Bulape Mission Station, the health zone of Bulape, borders the Sankuru River, which is on the other side of the river uh, from Lusamba. Lusamba, uh, like I say, it's on the river. It's got a couple of another river that runs into it. So that is how cholera is transmitted the most, more readily. It's by water. And what happens is cholera, a lot of people have cholera and don't know it, and they may not even have any symptoms of it. However, if it gets into the water through fecal matter, getting into a river stream, the people comes through, and if that's where they're getting their water from, they will pick up that bacteria, the cholera bacteria. And with the cholera bacteria, they may be a weaker person with a less, don't have immunity that some people may have for it. They're just a weaker body. Then they will come down with cholera. And the starting of it, just like any type of infection or virus or colds, even in this pandemic, one person comes down with it, gives it to another person, another person. But in the case of cholera, it's transmitted through the water or through food. And when you say transmitted through food, people may wash their foods in contaminated water and it gets on it. But for the most part, the people in the Congo, they really boil their foods really hard, and they don't eat fresh vegetables and things like we do. But there is that possibility that it could contaminate food, but primarily it's from drinking contaminated water. And that's from a surface lake, but in this case, it's a river, the Sankuru River, and that bacteria will go down the river with the current, and it goes from one village to another to another to another, and that's how it gets down the river and infects more people. There have been outbreaks of cholera on the different rivers, even on the Congo River, and they were really looking at it from the standpoint of how close it got to Kinshasa, which is the largest city in the Congo of about 10 million people, and they knew that if it made it to Kinshasa, it would be really a pandemic, probably not a pandemic, but of outbreak of monumental proportion, because a lot of people, they get water from the river and they don't treat the water. So let's get into treating the water to prevent cholera. You can do a number of things. Since cholera is a bacteria, it's easily killed by chlorine. You can put chlorine in the water. You can also boil the water, and also you can filter the water. Each one of those has its, I guess, drawbacks, but it's something that's necessary. Where if you're boiling the water, you got to gather up wood, but most of the people are gathering up wood. But are people spending the time to boil their water, their drinking water? They should, but they're probably not. Chlorine will cost money. I think I was batting in Kananga and probably batting in these rural areas. They do not have a place that they can buy chlorine at, but it was only, I think it was about $4 for a bottle of, which would last you a half a year or maybe longer than that. So they're not using chlorine. And also with any type of filtration, we use the life straw. I've trained on those, trained people how to use them. We have two versions of it. One is a family version, one is a community version. The community version will serve about 25 or more people. You put them in schools, put them in health centers, and they were also part of our emergency package that would go to a place like Lusamba to start disinfecting the water, and in this case, be filtering the water so that people would not come down with it. So what do you do after you come down with cholera? Well, you need to be treated immediately. One of the first treatments they do is to try to give you some uh, oral treatment, meaning to say put the electrolytes and and keep you from going into a dehydrated state. That's just salt, maybe with some sugar in the water, of clean water that is, and then you give that to the patient so that they can keep from going into this severe state, because it can kill you within a number of hours, somewhere around 12 hours if it goes untreated. The second thing it is to treat the general population. They have a oral vaccine that's given in the form of droplets and stuff, and that could be, they give that to out in areas to keep it from spreading even more, because as I said, once it starts spreading, it can really be like a wildfire. And finally, you can also take regular antibiotics, increased dose of antibiotics. Like I take a antibiotic called doxycycline. I take that every day to prevent malaria, and I take 100 milligrams. But if you took 300 milligrams, they say that would prevent you from getting cholera or treat the cholera and stuff like that. So that is what we know of it. And one of the things someone had asked about the water wells. Yeah, me along with Paul primarily, Paul Law, he's drilled about 50, 60 some water wells in the Sankuru area. And however, they are not everywhere, and people can still, because there is not a pumping system, a treatment system, the water coming out of the wells will probably be safe. However, if people go to a river and use it to even wash their clothes, it could just take off from there. So, in order to really prevent it, you're thinking about, like in the United States, we have a water treatment system that treats all of our water from everywhere, where in the Congo, even though there may be a well in the village, the people may not use that well to get water. They may use it to get drinking water, but it could be contaminated on the way back, or, by different methods, could be contaminated. And also they can get it on their hands and not wash their hands good. So, it's one of those situations. But thank you all for your questions and concerns about the people of the Congo. I really appreciate that. If you have any other questions, please drop them in the chat, either on Facebook or whatever platform you happen to be looking at this on, and I'll try to answer those. Thank you so much, and we will talk with you tomorrow. Same time, same station.